Hello and welcome to this presentation from the Zeitgeist Movement. The Zeitgeist Movement is a non-violent, non-political, global sustainability advocacy organisation. The term Zeitgeist means the general, moral, intellectual and cultural climate of an era, and movement denotes a change in position. Therefore, the Zeitgeist Movement seek a transition away from our current unsustainable values and practices to those that are more conducive towards living in a peaceful and sustainable world. The first step, in our view, in this transition has to be an educational one. Because it seems that we all know what the problems are. From environmental destruction on a widespread scale in which we will need 2 Earths to keep up our current rate of consumption by 2030, to global poverty and wealth inequality in which the 85 richest people on Earth have the equivalent wealth of the bottom 3.5 billion. And a world which spends in just 8 days on war what it would cost to feed all the starving people on it for an entire year. The problems are obvious, but systems are what they produce, not what we wish them to produce. So it seems clear that as soberly and as logically as possible, we must be prepared to question absolutely everything about the current socio-economic system, relying on the strongest evidence possible when doing so, and leaving aside personal or emotional investments as much as possible in order to address problems of this magnitude. We should also attempt to offer a clear vision about exactly what situation we want, with a concrete plan of how we intend to get there, as ultimately criticism without offering an alternative is not doing very much in the long run. A society without a vision of what the future could be is bound to repeat past mistakes over and over again. The most optimal approach in addressing any problem or making a positive change was perhaps summed up best by Buckminster Fuller when he said, "You never change things by fighting the existing reality. To change something, build a new model that makes the existing model obsolete." That's why the title of this brief presentation is World Unity, the Technical Approach. To solve these issues, it's a good idea to know exactly what we are dealing with in the way of the obstacles and barriers which stand in our way, of course. The first of these is fractional reserve banking. This is how all money comes into existence on this planet. Money is created out of debt when a customer wants a loan on the basis that the lender has roughly 10% of the requested amount in deposit. This means that banks are essentially creating money out of thin air. As if this were not enough, these loans come into existence with interest applied. Interest that was never created in these initial loans, which means that even if everyone were to pay back these loans tomorrow, we would still owe the interest, so the debt will never, ever be repaid. This creates a scarcity into the money supply and ensures bankruptcy, periodic debt collapse, and growing income inequality as a mathematical certainty. Income inequality lies at the heart of a whole range of social ills, from life expectancy, teenage birth rates, drug addiction, depression and stress, to educational attainment levels and imprisonment and reoffending rates. All are more likely to be worse in a more financially unequal society, showing how human behaviour is dramatically affected by economic pressures and environmental influence. This method of creating money also contributes to structural blockade too, infinite growth on a finite planet. Perhaps the craziness of this idea is summed up best by this slide. To keep this system going, we need problems and inefficiency to service with jobs and money. Resolving problems is not a rewarded venture in today's world. We also require rising consumption to ensure people stay in jobs and keep money circulating at an ever-increasing rate. But even jobs are and will continue to come under increasing threat from something called technological unemployment. The exponential rate in technological development and decrease in price of it over time will mean that many of the jobs we would have never dreamt of as being done by machines soon will be, as we can no longer retrain in new job roles created by this trend fast enough to keep up, with one estimate in a study by Oxford University stating that 46% of the jobs in America could be replaced by machines in the next 10 to 20 years. But if people do not have jobs, then they do not have the money to keep up consumption, and so this system is coming to an end through what it is intrinsically based upon. So, what's the alternative? Well, it seems clear that for global problems on this scale, we need global solutions. So we must move from a competitive system based on differential advantage, waste and scarcity-based economics, to a sustainable, collaborative and emergent one based on the intelligent management of the Earth's resources. We cannot solve the problems of today by using the same method of thinking we used to create them. So what is the model capable of delivering these aims? Well, this is what the movement promotes as an alternative to our current monetary market system, and it is called a natural law resource-based economy. The basic definition of this would be the application of the scientific method for social concern. We were never actually technically capable of delivering such a thing until recent times. But why science? Well, because the scientific method has been the great resolver of differences over time between a world split over politics, religion, philosophy and monetary policy. So if it is collaboration we seek to solve these issues, then the methods of science provide the best opportunity to do so. Remember that science and technology are responsible for the amenities many of us have come to enjoy, from the fridges that keep our food cool to the planes we travel on to go on holiday. But it has never been applied to our social system in a holistic or humane manner. Examples of what could be achieved were we to use this method directly for social concern would be 1. Global resource management. That is the ability to keep a global and dynamic track of our resource use using technology such as satellites, sensors and open source artificial intelligence via computers. 2. Sustainable global energy abundance. We could decipher the best locations for which medium of energy to use by adopting a systems theory approach to planetary management. 3. Sustainable agriculture. Global food abundance can be achieved by using sustainable agricultural methods such as hydroponics, aquaponics, aeroponics and permaculture, using far less space to do so, restoring biodiversity and eliminating the use of pesticides and herbicides. 4. Clean drinking water. We have many methods to address this issue, from desalination to a device that can actually extract moisture from the air around you and create fresh drinking water. 5. Sustainable housing and city design. This can be achieved with automated production, delivery and construction of robust buildings through the advents of such technologies as GPS-guided tracking systems, AI, robotics and 3D printing. These buildings from the Venus project were designed with sustainable practice in mind from the outset. So rather than taking resources from all corners of the planet for construction and then throwing half of it away, we could build them in one place and deliver them to their location instead, much like we do with cars on an assembly line. 6. Safe, clean and faster short-distance transportation. Driverless cars have done 300,000 miles on the US roads and have not crashed once. Compare this to the 1.2 million road deaths on this planet every year from human driver error, and we can see once again that a technical solution to this problem would be far more effective than the passing of laws, fining of drivers, or putting up speed cameras and the like. Electric cars that can travel 200 miles at 100 miles an hour on a single battery charge are our reality. But the patents for this technology are being withheld by the automotive industry, standing in the way of real and tangible progress in addressing the issues of pollution through our continued and largely unnecessary use of fossil fuels. 7. Safe, clean and faster long-distance transportation. Maglev trains are trains suspended on a pole by magnetism to reduce friction. If housed in an airtight tube, they could travel at speeds of up to 4,000 miles an hour safely. They use just 2% the energy of planes and with none of the harmful emissions. So what's the point of all of this technology? Well, put simply, scarcity and inefficiency are the problem, and access abundance and true efficiency is the solution. Access abundance means that there would be no need for ownership of many usage items. Notice that the word need is underlined here. That is because no one should or is going to take away your personal possessions when they could simply get what they need without any form of debt, servitude, or barter. It is obviously far more logical and sustainable to technically arrange our living circumstances in such a way that it makes sharing our planet's finite resources more conducive instead of everyone owning one of everything. We require access to the means of life. It's not communism, it's common sense. Scarcity leads to competition, inequality, shame and disrespect, and ultimately violence. If we want to solve crime and corruption, then we must address the root cause of the problem. It is not our human nature to live this way. We cannot judge human behaviour outside the context of environmental influence, and when our competitive, scarcity-based system of economics is taken into account, it is clear that much of the aberrant behaviour we see around us is a product of the system we are using. It is not a utopia, there is no such thing, there never has been, and there never will be. It will just be a better direction in which to head than our current one. In fact, it is our current system that should be seen as the utopia. It professes that infinite growth and competition on a finite planet will somehow lead to us all walking off into the sunset and living happily ever after. But the transition to a sustainable, peaceful and collaborative world will not be achieved by the Zeitgeist movement alone. There is a whole range of humanitarian groups out there seeking to make changes on the ground to undermine the current model and build the new from within. And we must all work together as much as possible to make this next transition in human life a reality. But we must also come to realize that the current structure will block us at every turn, as ultimately a peaceful, collaborative and sustainable world is not achievable inside an outdated, competitive, waste-based system. It is our values that support this system and our values that must change to support a more peaceful and collaborative one. Just because it is difficult to get from A to B does not resolve the need to do so. So a peaceful, non-violent, critical mass is required of those willing to make this shift and take a proactive stance in all aspects of their lives and efforts to change the world for the better by leading by example. The internet and the coming state of technology make this transition a real possibility if we want it to be. The movement is proud to be a part of this next transition in human life. We most likely run events near you in your local chapter, and if we don't, then please go to our website to learn more and perhaps set one up yourself. Because for a long time now, the world's religious leaders, philosophers and writers have been proposing notions of how the world can become a more peaceful, happy and joyful place for us all in which to live. But the ability to technically achieve the abundance required for such a globally collaborative system was never a reality until now. We have achieved so much as a species, and we can be amazing if we work together. Just a brief look at our journey on this planet so far shows that there is nothing we can't do when we put our minds to it. We have changed before, we can do it again, but not without effort, so I'm afraid the first change has to start with you, not someone else. In the final analysis, we are one people and we share one planet.